Battle control initialized.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Red Alert Gaming League Season 9 Minions Round 2. In the lower right-hand corner, we have Zaqzorn playing as Ukraine, and in the upper left-hand corner, we have PieChild playing as Russia. Let's go to the production tab. Zaqzorn coming out with a doggy right off the bat. 2 doggies and selling off the kennel. Follows that up with a barracks into, of course, the refinery. He is now 8 seconds behind in the refinery process. PieChild ahead by 8 seconds building his refinery. Zaqzorn with his dogs watching out over the oil derricks, trying to get a feel for where PieChild's army is headed. That dog succumbing to rifle fire, vetting the infantry troop. Not this doggy. He takes one out, gets taken out, and vetting another infantry on PieChild. Zaqzorn now with a good feel of where PieChild's army is headed. Both players still constructing their second refineries, both players therefore going double ref. Zaqzorn committing hard to the lower left-hand refinery. There are a total of 3 refineries on this map, the center one, of course, being surrounded by barbed wire. PieChild with his engineer at the upper right-hand corner refinery, and Zaqzorn not far behind despite going for a kennel first off the bat. Zaqzorn foregoing a war factory, going for the second barracks. He's going to go for troop pressure. Both players now with 1 oil refinery. And this looks like a contingent of grenadiers from PieChild headed down the right-hand flank. We'll see what these grenadiers do. Grenadiers have stopped just shy of the base. Perhaps PieChild a little distracted by the engagement on the upper right oil derrick. PieChild also gearing up, it looks like, to take the lower left-hand derrick from Zaqzorn. Both players about even in actions per minute. Zaqzorn with 24.4 and PieChild with 20. Both players nearly even in income. And Zaqzorn is capturing PieChild's refinery in the upper right-hand corner of the map. PieChild coming out with ore trucks. He's got a APC on the map, about to take away Zaqzorn's oil derrick. PieChild still has his 4 grenadiers sitting on the right-hand flank of the map. Zaqzorn with a sizable infantry force moving towards the center of the map. Zaqzorn sending his engineer away from his main force. And Zaqzorn moving out his main MCV at 4 minutes. PieChild with a rifleman scout going to scope out that base probably before the grenadiers make their move. And PieChild moves towards Zaqzorn's natural expansion. That's not quite a base push, but it is a very offensive positioning with the MCV. Each player still on 1 oil refinery. PieChild now with 5 harvesters to Zaqzorn's 4. And PieChild comes out with his first expansion MCV. And that expansion MCV is going in blind into a sizable force of infantry loaded with rocket soldiers. He's going to deploy, and hopefully he doesn't have anything in his pocket. Oh, he's got a flame tower in his pocket. Deploys the flame tower and saves the MCV. The MCV is escaping on 10% health. And PieChild's forces are defeating Zaqzorn, but Zaqzorn has got an up-front barracks, but he is strapped for cash at the moment. PieChild with a distinctive income advantage, about 2,000 over Zaqzorn. And Zaqzorn has his engineer taking the high road around the back of the base, probably going to go for a capture on the main base MCV. PieChild about to take his first expansion. Zaqzorn already out with his first expansion, right in the face of PieChild. His army's fighting hard to kill that harvester, but that thing's got some armor. Zaqzorn's harvester falling to the forces of PieChild, now down to 5 harvesters to PieChild's 6. PieChild out with his first expansion MCV. And I am really sorry that I missed that, because Zaqzorn's forces seem to have taken quite a blow. His main base seems to have taken quite a blow from those engineers. And PieChild winning the game. Zaqzorn calling it quits at 6 minutes and 26 seconds. Wow. 158 to 103. Let's go to the economy graph. PieChild out from the gate captures an oil derrick and also just ecos up really fast. Comes out with a war factory long before Zaqzorn does, and that's what this is right here. PieChild comes out with the war factory and starts ecoing up immediately. That expansion didn't have a whole hell of a lot to do with it. Zaqzorn with an aggressive base push, moving out his main MCV before he has the ability to replace it. And once that MCV went down, really, that was it. Also, PieChild with those grenadiers on the side. Sorry I missed that, but they must have done quite a bit of damage to the main base. And let's go to the army graph. PieChild behind from minute 2.5 until nearly the end of the game, but it's not about mass, it's about the way that you play. Zaqzorn perhaps making a tactical error in moving out his main MCV. Let's go on to game number 2.
Battle control terminated. Battle control initialized.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Red Alert Gaming League Season 9 Minions Round 2. In the upper left corner, we have Zaqzorn playing as Russia, and in the lower right-hand corner, we have PieChild playing as Ukraine. Let's go to the production tab. Zaqzorn just about a half second ahead in production of his barracks, deploys it first. Still about a half second ahead in production of his refinery. A total of 3 oil refineries on this map. PieChild looks like he's making a beeline for the center of the map with that conga line of infantry troops. Zaqzorn trying to gain awareness by sending out flanking units, covering the oil derricks. And it looks like Zaqzorn is going war factory first. So that's a power plant, then a refinery, then a barracks, then a war factory, foregoing the second early refinery that PieChild is making. PieChild going for a more standard build known as the double ref. And PieChild is going to be the first player to capture an oil derrick, the center oil derrick, a very strategic position on this map. And there's PieChild out with his second ore refinery. taking out that scout from Zaqzorn. Zaqzorn coming out with a war factory at 1 minute and 52 seconds. And Zaqzorn covering the upper right-hand oil derrick fairly well. Both players, again, about even in actions per minute. Zaqzorn with 19.5 and PieChild with 23.6. PieChild's got 2 harvesters out now thanks to the double ref build. Zaqzorn not far behind, about to produce his second harvester. And Zaqzorn comes out with an APC prior to the harvester. That is absolutely going to make mincemeat out of this rifle front and perhaps even snipe the engineer. That's the first thing he goes for after some very good crushes. 6 crushes, that is no joke. Oh, gee, this looks familiar. Grenadiers from PieChild. Little Grenadier Pie. Let's keep the focus on the Grenadiers this time and see what they do. Zaqzorn up to 3 harvesters. PieChild still at 2. Good maneuvering of the Grenadiers to avoid the riflemen. Goes after the power plants. That's going to set Zaqzorn back in tech. And Zaqzorn is forced to build another power plant. Absolutely neutralizing his tech tree. Zaqzorn moves in on the northern oil derrick. And PieChild has an infantry battalion getting ready with a mobile flak truck out front. Zaqzorn on 3 harvesters to PieChild's 4. Zaqzorn comes out with his own flak truck and is about to capture the oil derrick out from underneath PieChild. PieChild, this is his only oil derrick. This is going to set him back. Zaqzorn with a... Well, now he's at an income disadvantage. That's very interesting how quickly this can change. PieChild up to 5 harvesters now. No expansions. And it looks like PieChild's going to be the first one to come out with an MCV well ahead of Zaqzorn. Zaqzorn now with 2 oil derricks, but still running at an income disadvantage by about a full $2,000 on 3 harvesters instead of 5. And PieChild out with his expansion MCV, moving it toward his scout forces. Zaqzorn not at all invested in renewable energy, going for all the oil derricks. And great crushes again from that APC, losing out to the rocket soldiers in the back lines. Zaqzorn comes out with another APC, and he's got another one in the works. APCs and flak trucks battling it out. And a heavy tank from PieChild. Zaqzorn with a sizable infantry force moving in on PieChild's first expansion. And that is an ominous maneuver for that engineer. And the army just passes him by. Zaqzorn still with 3 oil derricks to PieChild's 0. PieChild now at an income disadvantage. 6 harvesters PieChild to Zaqzorn's 5, and 3 oil derricks for Zaqzorn compared to PieChild's 0. And a rocket soldier finds that engineer, going prone the engineer, falling to a rifleman. Wow, that is a big drop. That's only riflemen, though, coming out of those APCs. Not going to be able to do a whole hell of a lot. Zaqzorn, 20 seconds until his first expansion MCV. PieChild, meanwhile, cranking out troops and tanks. PieChild slowly but surely whittling down that oil derrick of Zaqzorn. And some major eco-harassment. Those two heavy tanks are going to make mincemeat out of that harvester. Zaqzorn just coming out with his first expansion MCV. Those heavy tanks sitting still, falling back. Zaqzorn's expansion MCV idle. Zaqzorn taking out one of PieChild's harvesters. An attack on Zaqzorn's first expansion. That Tesla coil won't be enough to hold off that entire army. Both players strapped for cash. Well, they're not even in income. PieChild's about 4,000, 5,000 ahead. PieChild with a sizable force coming to the rescue of his first expansion, losing two harvesters and a refinery, along with that Tesla coil. That's a major eco-harassment on part of PieChild there. Zaqzorn down to 4 harvesters, 2 derricks. PieChild at 5 harvesters, 0 derricks. PieChild taking off at 44 actions per minute. And it looks like Zaqzorn has gone radar tech. PieChild taking out another oil derrick of Zaqzorn. And Zaqzorn with questionable placement of his first expansion MCV. He's going to have to leapfrog his way to get a good positioning on the refinery there. PieChild, one by one, taking out Zaqzorn's oil advantage. And both players are essentially dead even in income. Despite the extra harvester from PieChild, he's slightly ahead now. And PieChild with a sizable army moving towards Zaqzorn's main base. PieChild at 42.9 actions per minute to Zaqzorn's 24.5. And both players very low on cash. Some eco-harassment by PieChild being answered by an anti-infantry battalion. They may claim that heavy tank. And the heavy tank of Zaqzorn going down to a couple of riflemen. Meanwhile, PieChild with a sizable infantry force moving in on Zaqzorn's main base. Zaqzorn in a low power situation. Depowers his radar dome. And that's a lot of rocket troopers. It looks like PieChild has his rifle infantry and his rocket soldiers in 2 different action groups, so he's able to command them separately, commanding the rocket soldiers to engage the structures while the rifle infantry goes on attack move. Highly effective. Zaqzorn's main MCV escaping on 10%, 20% health, and deploying a flame tower to deal with those rocket soldiers. That's not going to stand for long. He's going to lose that war factory. He's going to lose that war factory if PieChild decides to call it off. I'd say a little bit too early. Goes after the MCV instead, bringing Zaqzorn down to 5 MCVs to PieChild's 7. Neither player has any oil derricks. No oil derricks remain on the map thanks to PieChild. Zaqzorn redeploying his MCV, giving him build radius, and another harvester goes down, bringing Zaqzorn down to 4. Looks like we got 2 V2s on the map here. PieChild with much better map control than Zaqzorn, measuring his offensives strategically retreating and saving the mass of his infantry. But I don't know how they're going to stand up to these heavy tanks. We got aircraft out now from PieChild. PieChild playing as Ukraine. That's very important to get his airport up and running. His support power, he's going to have parabombs in 4 minutes. And those rocket troops making mincemeat out of the heavy armor, but just not able to stem the flood. I think he's going to lose a... he loses 1v2 rocket launchers, splits them in different directions. One of them's going to get away. PieChild on 7 harvesters to Zaqzorn's 4. And PieChild with some eco-harassment. Takes out another harvester. He's going to lose both those tanks. Taking out a harvester, that's worth 2 tanks, I'd say. Zaqzorn now on 3 harvesters to PieChild's 8 harvesters. Zaqzorn on his 2nd expansion, soon to be 3rd. And Zaqzorn calling it quits at 13 minutes and 23 seconds. 480 to 396, excuse me. Let's go to the ecograph. PieChild with an advantage, starting at 1 minute and 30 seconds, ending up at 3.5 minutes. Both players dead even until 4 minutes when PieChild comes out with another eco advantage. I think that all had to do with the timing of his war factory and just taking a very defensible position on his first expansion, committing to that expansion with a eco slide, and then also eco sliding to a secondary expansion, just working his way up the right hand side of the map. Let's go over to the army graph. PieChild with an early army, massive infantry force, and yeah, foregoing that, stalling the production of his war factory, going double barracks, if I remember correctly. Was that this game? Goes double barracks and just has troop pressure and uses his troops well, keeps them close together, mixes in some rocket soldiers with them, techs up and uses the Yak attack planes for scouts, line of sight. Well, there you have it, folks. Red Alert Gaming League Season 9 Minions Round 2, both games going to PieChild.
Battle control terminated.